I'm going to start this video off by saying I really do not like For Honor. It's a game that has done nothing but piss me off for the past 6 years, and its community has filled me with enough salt alone to give the League of Legends community a run for its overpriced skins. There's an inside joke amongst my friends that this game is pretty much meth if meth was a video game, because clearly it's unhealthy for you, but you just can't stop abusing it. Over time though, I've come to the conclusion that this game is actually worse than meth. Hear me out here. Meth at least has the decency to kill you after enough time of inflicting self-harm upon yourself, but with For Honor, its self-harm is never-ending pain and hatred that will slowly turn you into an angry and bitter person, twisting your perception to the point where the goal of the game isn't even to win anymore. It's just about making sure the enemy team had the worst fucking time imaginable, also you can get off your cute little teabag and triple thanks at the end of the game. And so, you're probably asking yourself, Aiden, if you hate the game so much, why do you keep playing it then? And to that I say, how the hell do you know my name? Oh, but only if it was that simple, my little pog champ. I could give you the short answer and just say Stockholm Syndrome, but if I did that, the video would be shorter than Tyler 1, so I'm gonna have to go more in depth, starting all the way from the beginning. I've been playing the game since the release of the beta back in 2017, and as much shit as I give current For Honor, I can say with about 90% confidence that the game is in a better state now than it was during the beta. In the beta, there were 4 heroes for the 3 factions, Knights, Vikings, and Samurai, but you could only play as 3 of them. I'll go over all the heroes later, but for now I just want to talk about first impressions and what the game was like during the beta. During the beta, there were 6 maps and 1 game mode. No, wait, hold on, never mind. There was 1 real game mode, 1v1s, 2v2s, and another one nobody gives a shit about. The overall gameplay for Honor is simple in concept, but it has a ridiculous-ass learning curve. Upon walking up to an enemy and locking onto them, you are given a guard icon with 3 directions. Pointing in one of these directions will make you guard as well as attack in that direction. Sorry I've said direction so many times, you get the idea. There are your basic light attacks and heavy attacks, as well as a bunch of other variants we'll get into. If you throw a heavy right before an attack lands, you'll parry it, allowing you to get a free hit in and start your combo. The other attack types I mentioned are Unblockables, Undodgeables, I'll let you figure out what those do, as well as bashes, crushing counters, deflects, and hyper armor attacks. There are more, but they're more hero specific, so I might go into them when I cover those specific heroes. Bashes are a form of blunt attack. They don't typically do damage, except in very specific scenarios. They're mostly just used to open up defenses and cancel out hyper armor. Speaking of which, hyper armor, or as I like to personally call it, the crutch tool for pussies who act as if it's the cure for their erectile dysfunction. Sorry, that got personal. Basically, hyper armor makes it so regular attacks will not cancel out their attacks. It will go through whether you like it or not. The only real way to stop this is to face the attack head on and parry it, bash them as I mentioned earlier, or unplug your Ethernet cable. They can't hurt you if you can't see them. Crushing counters are for the special little boys who suck at deflects, but think because they can effectively CC that they're as good as people who can deflect. They're not. Heroes who have this simply need to throw a light attack right before the impact of another attack similar to a parry, and your attack will completely cancel out theirs and yours will be guaranteed. At first glance, this may just seem overpowered, but 9 times out of 10, it's a mewling idiot who just spams out light attacks the moment he sees red. All you have to do is feint a heavy. Oh, did I not mention you can do that? So that he'll throw out his light, landing you an easy light parry, which are actually more rewarding than regular parries, since these guarantee a free heavy attack. Deflects. You're either good at them, or you're the type of dude who thinks he can be good at them after watching one YouTuber's deflect compilation video, only to get their shit rocked by a Kensei and their stupid overpowered hyper armor lights. To do this, all you need to do is dodge into an attack right before impact and press the hero's deflect punish button, whatever that might be, to absolutely style on your enemy. Unfortunately though, this attack requires the most skill, and another unfortunate is it's very easy to counter, because if you have hyper armor, your attack will go right through it because Ubisoft decided you had too much fun for one day, and it's someone else's turn with the fun stick, and go figure it has to be the fucking Shigoki. When do they not get it? Dominion. There are 3 points spread across the map, 2 capture points and 1 minion point. What's a minion? Take a guess, moron. By capturing the point, you are granted 100 points and gain a continuous 1 point per second, 2 if someone is standing at said point. Trust me, it actually makes a bigger difference than it sounds. The 100 points I mentioned earlier is lost if the enemy team takes the point, giving it to them instead. When one team reaches 1,000, the other team starts breaking. Once they're broken, your new job is to make sure all enemies are dead at the same time. And if they're executed, they can't be revived and are dead, period. Ah, silly me. Did I not mention executions? Whoops, let's do that real quick. Executions are little animations you can do to style on the enemy if you kill them with a heavy attack, but it does serve a bigger purpose other than reminding the enemy how much better you are than them. If you're executed, your respawn timer is extended from 12 to 15 seconds, and you can't be revived. This is especially important during breaking points because then the enemy is permanently removed from the rest of the match. Eliminations is a 4v4 mode where everyone has one life and the first team to have all their members dead loses. This is the pointless mode I was discussing earlier because after everybody tried it out, they realized how fucking boring it was and the poor lad just hasn't been the same since. And that's pretty much all there was in terms of content for the beta, excluding the heroes, and for the most part it was really fun and it showed a lot of promise. The worst part about it that carried into the first year of the game was the peer-to-peer network matchmaking. Similar to the early Call of Duties, one person has host advantage and everyone else gets to play who can be booted to the menu faster.
It's based on reactions, and you're gonna have peer-to-peer connections. You start wrecking the host, then he just disconnects and it fucks up the whole game for everyone. Then all of a sudden your connection, which was pretty good, now it's like awful, because the new host is playing in fucking Antarctica.
This was fixed when dedicated servers were added and a feature so the game could tell between an actual leave and a legitimate network error. That being said, I'm still butthurt about it 6 years later. I may forgive, but I never forget. Now let's speedrun the rest of these boring modes so we can get to the heroes. Skirmish is like Team Deathmatch. That's pretty much it. Tribute exists. It's like Capture the Flag, but there's 3 of them and it goes on way longer than it needs to. Alright, here's some meat and potato, kiddos. Breach is the massive scale game mode that was released with the Marching Fire expansion in the Chinese heroes. Think something like Walker Assault from Battlefront if you played that. The attackers need to escort a ram through 2 gates to reach the commander whom they need to kill in order to win. The defenders stop this by killing the minions near the ram to halt its progress so their minions can damage it, and above each gate is a fire cauldron the defenders can drop to deal big boy damage to the ram. If and when the attackers reach the commander, they'll have a certain amount of lives they can go through before they lose. This is dictated by how much health the ram had when it reached the commander. If it arrived in near perfect condition, the defenders might as well just bend over and apologize for being such a shitty adversary. On top of all of this, there are archer points along the edges of the map that start out with the defenders, and these archers will snipe the enemy minions to help out the players. If the attackers capture these archer points, the defenders can't take them back, and they need to retreat to the next archer point. Alright, I think that about covers all the game. Shit, I forgot to mention this game has a campaign. Its story is lackluster at best, and Ubisoft never updated the heroes in campaign to play like they do now, so you're playing an outdated version of the game that can't even help you practice for multiplayer. Just don't touch this. Finally, now we can get into the part everyone actually cares about, and the part that'll take up the majority of this video. I'm gonna go through all of the heroes in one video instead of making a dedicated one for each because I'm lazy and there's no guarantee this one will get any views to begin with, so I'm just gonna go from left to right, starting with the knights. Warden, the poster boy for Honor. This game's Tracer and the easiest to learn hero in the game. He can chain 2 lights together so long as the first one lands and has a shoulder bash that'll give you CTE brain damage faster than college football. He also has a crushing counter, but for some godforsaken reason, it only works on top attacks, so big whoop-de-fucking-do, I guess. Conqueror was the knight's first heavy, and he uses a flail and shield as his weapon. The flail does come with drawbacks, as you can't feint attacks with him, but as of writing this, that is subject to change. By moving the mouse down or the right analog stick down, he goes into an all guard, where he's able to block in all directions, but he can't move. You can get him out of this by using an unblockable or a guard break, and holy shit, I forgot to talk about guard breaks. Quick tangent, real quick. Guard breaks are what happens when you press X or square, which will grab the enemy, halting it whatever it is they may be trying to do. If successful, you can get off a free attack, but if an enemy reacts fast enough when not doing anything, they can counter your GB. Got it? Good. Back to Conqueror. So that whole thing about Conqueror not being able to feint was a bit of a lie. He can feint in a sense, where if he goes into all guard mid-heavy, it will soft feint, canceling the attack and going all guard. He also has a bash, which is about as annoying as you expect, and if he holds his heavy, he can charge an unblockable that does extra damage. The rest doesn't matter, as he's going to be getting his rework soon anyway, and most of this might just be irrelevant soon. Lawbringer. A clunky mess that I personally cannot stand. I understand why he can't throw multiple lights in a row, but for me, it just feels really weird and awkward. He does make up for this by having heavies that deal really fucking good damage, and if you land certain ones, they can stun you and drain stamina. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have much to say on this hero. I rarely play him, and when I did, it was for this video, and in a bot game at that, just because I can't find the fun in him so many others have found. He just feels outdated, a remnant from the days of For Honor that never got the attention he deserved. Kind of like another hero I know, but we'll cover that one later, kiddo. I have a lot more I want to say about that one. Centurion. Oh, Centurion. This motherfucker is what caused me to take one of my many long breaks from the game. Upon release, if landed a charged heavy attack, which was fucking guaranteed if he threw you into a wall, there was then a guaranteed charged punch that would throw you into the ground and let him perform his ground punish. All it took was one mistake on your part or just standing near a wall, and this asshole would melt half of your health. This pissed me off one too many times that I quickly uninstalled and didn't play again till Marching Fire. When that came out, I'm fucking angry, I'm stuttering, fuck you. As I was saying, I didn't come back until Marching Fire when he was in a much better state, or at the very least he was in one that didn't piss me off every time I fought him. I realize I barely talked about how the hero works, but let's be honest here. If you're watching this video, you probably already play For Honor and know how it works and just want to hear my shit takes on the game before you yell at me in the comments about how hyper armor lights aren't overpowered and I just suck. Well, at least you're right about one of those, kiddo. Gladiator. King Misty himself. Don't lie, we've all done it. We watched one of his videos and said, ha, I can do that, only to get ass blasted by a hyper armor spamming Shigoki who I might as well call Fax because he sure as hell didn't care about my feelings. The only two things you need to know about him is he can stab your toes and stab you in the gut, inflicting enough bleed to make you forget about that other knight assassin who can inflict bleed. Shit, what was her name again? It doesn't matter, let's move on. Vortiger. No, it's Vortiger. Black Prior, or BP as some call it, is boring and stupid. Ubisoft during Year 3 decided to give all the heroes secondary names, and almost all of them are cooler than their primary names. Except Hulda, that one is stupid. Everyone calls Vortiger overpowered, and I can't help but disagree. If you ask me, I think Vortiger is perfectly balanced and is the gold standard of what every hero in For Honor should be. I think their shield flip is just easy enough that anyone can do it with enough practice, but not brain dead enough that just any Highlander main can do it from the get-go. The only thing I would say Vortiger doesn't need is crushing counters, but that's mainly due to the fact that I'm an idiot and always fall for them. War Mommy. This hero was the first released in Year 4 when Ubisoft's budget was running low, so they just said, fuck it, let's just do 2 heroes and make them reused characters from the campaign. Enter a Polymom. People say she's just a better Warden, and I understand the comparison, but I don't fully agree. That's like calling Shaman a better Peacekeeper because she can do exactly what Peacekeeper does, but doesn't have to bleed opponents to apply pressure. Okay, maybe that one's a bad comparison. Point is, the two are different enough that they're not fully the same. They can both apply pressure, but very differently. Warden is through using his shoulder bashes, and Wolfmom with her enhanced lights and claw bash, which, unlike Warden, can't be infinitely chained. And if she parries you, you better fucking pray to Allah that there isn't a ledge behind you, because she'll use her skewer to throw you off faster than I threw my cat out the window after getting ledge for the 50th fucking time. Griffin, that other reused campaign character I mentioned. This hero caused pretty much every Lawbringer main, with the exception of John DeLiner, to commit suicide via long-arming themselves, because this hero is just Lawbringer, but bullshit. I mean, hell, the fucker stole half of his animations, his voice actor, and his girlfriend. The least they can do to apologize to Lawbringer mains is give the character good fashion, which, coincidentally, Griffin also lacks. To make a long story short, he can bash, double light chain, and his chain finishers are just a 50-50 mix-up between a bash and an undodgeable attack. A mix-up that Ubisoft likes so much that I can name 4 fucking different heroes who have it. Wow, really mixing things up there, Gooby, I see. Now we are on to my least played faction, the Vikings. But Aiden, you Misty here in the Knights. And shh boy, I have a whole section dedicated to that one. But for now, let's just speedrun this one so I can get back to talking about characters I actually enjoy. Raider. You know, can some idiot at Ubisoft explain to me why his axe is about the size of your average assassin, but for some unexplainable reason it has some of the fastest light attacks in the game, despite Raider being in the Vanguard class and not the assassin? Also, while we're on the topic of things that make me big angy, let's talk about his shoulder rush thing. I don't remember the name and I literally don't care enough to check, but I've been ledged by this thing so many goddamn times that when I replayed Bioshock Infinite recently, I got fucking PTSD. Warlord is a good hero. His light attacks are stupidly fast, but I can at least give it a pass this time because his weapon is a short sword, unlike Raider's big fuck-off axe. His hyper armor is also incredibly really strong, and his ability to ledge is damn near unmatched, but I never struggled too hard against him. I just feel like he's just really good in 1v1s and just good in group fights. And also, yes, I know most of this footage is against bots, but I wanted to finish this video, and I don't have enough time to throw temper tantrums and leave matches, so deal with it. Berserker. You know, this character really highlights a joke I made at the end of the Centurion section, and that's hyper armor lights. This little fucker right here is the poster boy of why hyper armor lights just shouldn't exist. Lights are already hard enough to parry, especially if you're on console, which I am. So really, must I be punished for not being able to do one of the hardest things in the game for a console player? The only thing that I say doesn't make him overpowered is that he's hindered by Reflex Guard, which makes it so you can't permanently block in a single direction. If you do, your guard just goes down and you're not guarding at all, you'll just be hit. This mechanic is stupid and outdated and should have fucking been removed years ago. The only argument I've heard as to why it should stay in is, oh, if they remove it, then hybrids and assassins would be the same class. And also, fuck that, the system is stupid too and should be removed. 90% of these heroes are stepping on other classes' toes anyway. Fuck it, remove both and make both parties happy. Valkyrie is the only Viking I've actually put any major time into, and I'll tell you right now, it wasn't because of her moveset. I took one look at that woman and was reminded of the wise words of Spike Spiegel. I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass. Moveset wise, she's pretty much an assassin without Reflex Guard, so if you're tired of losing ganks thanks to the idiots at Gooby, just play Valk. Shit man, she's even got deflex. Oh, Highlander, you whore. The world would be a happier place without you in it. If you didn't exist, humanity might have made it to space. Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine, and Winnie the Pooh wouldn't be such a little bitch. The only thing more brain dead than your moveset is the people who play you. Sure, I could give you some rundown on how you work, but I'm enjoying yelling at you more, so I'm gonna keep doing that. To be honest though, I understand why people play you. Players took one look at that big sword of yours and realized they don't have to spend the money to get their truck lifted. Speaking of which, why is it whenever I see some loser with a Confederate flag, it's always a fucking Highlander? Just play Valkyrie, bro. Shit, she makes my South rise again. Shaman is an assassin hero who excels at bleeding opponents. She can do this by soft feinting heavy openers into bleeds, or after chains, and if she deflects you, she can also bleed you. If you are bleeding, Shaman's basic attacks will now heal her, not by much, but it is noticeable. If she bashes you while you are bleeding, she instead pounces on you, bites your neck, and heals a lot more health than usual. And for some weird reason, her left heavy finishers are unblockable. I don't know why, but that's the thing as well. If you're wondering why I actually took the time to explain the hero instead of trying to be funny haha, it's because at the end of this, there's another hero I want to talk about, and since I'm going to compare them to Shaman a lot, I think it's best if you know how this hero works for future reference. Jormungandr is a very mid-tier hero, but For Honor does not like it when I play this hero and throws any and all obstacles at me to ruin my fun, so now I really just avoid this character like the plague. Yorm's only gimmick is stamina drain, but it doesn't take a master's degree to avoid their bashes, and once they lose that pressure, they're basically worthless. Let's also point out that a lot of other characters' bashes drain stamina as well. Maybe not as effectively, but if most other heroes can do it on top of having a better moveset, then what's the point of playing them? Hey, you, aspiring For Honor player, do you have an oversized ego but not enough skill to back it up? Well then do I have the hero for you. Introducing Kensei. Kensei comes equipped with hyper armor lights in case you decided that fun was no longer on the menu, and dodge attacks that go perfectly with your plain milk. And if that wasn't enough, well, you got a tier 4 feat that makes all of your attacks unblockable. What's a feat, you're asking? Shit, I didn't explain feats. Feats are basically your hero abilities. You don't start matches with feats and instead earn them throughout the match by collecting enough social credit to earn each tier, typically with each one being better than the last. There are two types of feats, active and passive. Active feats, you have to press a button to use them. They range from things like crossbows, throwing knives, bombs, temporary hyper armor, healing, AoEs, things like that. And passive feats are ones where you don't have to do anything, they just work in the background. These are things like heal on kill, speed revive, welfare checks, MW2 martyrdom, things like that. While we're on the topic, I'd like to talk about the debate on whether feats are overpowered or not. And personally speaking, I think 90% of feats are perfectly fine and don't need a nerf or buff, with the exception of Kensei's unblockable tier 4 or Shigoki's knockdown tier 4. Those two can just go fuck off. Shigoki. Oh, Shigoki. I've avoided using this word so as not to give off a bad impression, but I say this with absolute sincerity when I say that Shigoki and the people who play him are complete and utter retards who should go and kill themselves. Alright, let's not go that far. I would never actually wish harm upon anyone. Vocally. Shigoki has a lot going for him actually, with his light opener being incredibly fast, making sure you can never actually open him up. He also has a bash that does a base damage of 10, unlike other heroes who can only do it through feats, meaning they can't even use it in duels and brawls. Also, let's not forget about his hyper armor unblockable, just in case you were accidentally having fun for too long. But don't worry, if all that sounded just a bit too overkill, he also has a hug he can do whenever with no windup that if landed will heal him. I know I'm not alone in saying that I think Shigoki may be just a teeny weeny stronger than most of the heroes in this game. Arochi, once the king of light spam as that was all he could do at the time, has since moved on to better prospects like bash spam and dodge spam. These specimen are typically played by 14-year-old weeaboos who instantly flocked to the most stereotypical samurai in the game. That and Nova King, but he's the exception, not the rule. Nobushi's only redeeming traits is that all of her basic lights deal bleed, making her an excellent para-shaman. That and Infernal Lust. Shinobi is a character that went from being absolutely terrible and easy to bully to giving you migraines because even though you dodged his bash, it meant jack shit because he has a backflip that is all reward and no risk. But now, he's alright. He's a lot less frustrating now. He can still do that backflip, but it's a lot more manageable. I'm gonna be honest with you, homie. I have 0 playtime in Aramusha and didn't get any footage for this video, so I'm gonna say that he's a good hero and you should maybe play him. What's it like to play against him? Who cares? Sakura was OP at release because his heavy openers had hyper armor, but they removed that and changed them a bit, removing the hyper armor on openers and adding a dodge attack, and his sweep went from being useless to guaranteeing a heavy attack if landed. So was he even improved? Kinda sounds better to be honest, but nah, anything is better than more hyper armor. Kyoshin is just a femboy twink Eren Yeager with a boring defensive playstyle, but his drip is absolutely top tier, so I played the absolute shit out of him. I dislike the Wulin immensely and only play one of them, so I'm just going to quickly gloss over these idiots. Tandy is a spaz and talks too much, Zhang Jun is overpowered, Shaolin sucks, and Nusha is worse. The only Chinese I do play is Sunda, and that's because I like to roleplay as a Beyblade with her zone attack. Also look at my drip, this shit is just too good. Pirate is the first and only hero of the Outlander faction. She's the only hero with a fucking gun, and it seems Ubi went extra boring with her fashion in this game. So much opportunity with a pirate, and they wasted it leaning more into her Chinese side than her pirate side. How does she play? Like a cunt, that's how. She's got the goods. Hyper armor, unblockables, bashes, just target swap a lot in ganks and you'll be good to go, champ. If you've been paying attention, you'll have noticed that there was one hero from the Knight faction that I skipped over. And now I want to talk about that hero, as I believe she as a whole represents a lot of what is wrong with For Honor. Peacekeeper. I am a very firm believer that if you are someone who goes into a multiplayer game and instantly looks for the most powerful character, or the one that requires the most skill to play, then you are a pussy and I pity the life you've wasted. The only thing that matters in any game ever is fashion. So when I first installed the For Honor beta, I instantly started looking for the coolest character that I could find. And the one that caught my eye was Peacekeeper. I've been maining Peacekeeper since the beta, playing them on and off, and I can say with 100% certainty that Peacekeeper is without a doubt the worst character in For Honor, and this has remained unchanged for 6 goddamn years. Sure, you might be able to argue that Nusha is a worse hero. Maybe she is. Her trap attacks are cool and unique, but useless once you realize how easy they are to counter. But it just feels more insulting with Peacekeeper, as she was shit at launch and has remained shit throughout the years. Not too long ago, Ubisoft announced a Peacekeeper buff. Finally, we all said, she might actually be able to compete with the other heroes. Wait, what the fuck is this? A 5 damage increase on heavies and an unblockable heavy finisher if the opponent is bleeding? Are you fucking kidding me? Literal years, and this is the pity buff we get? For fuck's sake, she didn't even get the 5 damage increase on her heavies because that devs said it was too much damage. For fuck's sake, Ubisoft, this is why Elden Ring is doing laps around your piss poor excuse of open worlds. To be honest, I think it would have been less insulting had they continued to ignore PK instead of this limp dick excuse of a buff. She is still literally useless in 4v4s because she can barely bleed in group fights. In order for her to bleed, she needs to either guard break then stab them, soft feint a heavy into a top light, land a heavy which can be followed up by a stab, or deflect them, and if someone is side blocking PK, it is literally impossible to bleed someone, so the heavy unblockable finisher they added meant jack shit since she almost never gets it off. And this is where Shaman comes in. Her ways of bleeding are nearly identical, except Shaman can unblockable by default and has a bash. Also, when she bleeds someone, she can heal and not unlock a wet noodle of an unblockable. Let's not forget about the Reflex Guard, making it so she is both useless at offense and worse in defense, as assassins also have the lowest health pool of any class. 6 years. 6 years, and almost nothing about this character has changed, yet they keep adding new armor sets, outfits, weapons in the battle pass for this character, and expect people to continue to spend money on this game. There hasn't been a new real map in years, just a shitty 1v1 map that's just a square with some eye candy out of bounds. This game has some incredibly skewed priorities. The only new game-changing content we even get anymore is new heroes, and those have been progressively getting worse and more boring. Ubi is constantly adding these temporary game modes for events that are 10 times more fun than what we've been playing for 6 years. Why can't they keep some of those mode-ins? Because no one wants to play fucking Tribute, I can tell you that much. Though, for some reason, despite everything I said, why do I still play For Honor? This game is unbalanced in a lot of areas. There has been massive content droughts that seem to keep getting bigger, and my favorite character is dogshit. So why do I still play? The simple answer is this game is one of a kind. There is no other game with such a unique fighting concept and such a steep but satisfying learning curve that combines such interesting cultures of history. It's just a shame that it feels like this passion is slowly being lost on For Honor by the devs, and they know they can do this because there is no competition, and they don't need to work hard on this game because there are no other games to go to. And yet, I still play it. It has become a coping mechanism to a captive and abusive situation. With nowhere else to go, I continue to play this stupid sword game.